I'm well, and yourself?
I am very well, thank you for asking. We're counting down patiently to Christmas. Now,
Hello?
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Yes, I
you
said I'm
now.
very well, and we are counting down patiently to Christmas. That we
Yeah.
can go and spend time with family. Now, yesterday the president was at the Presbyterian bicentennial. I'll speak to you about him talking about posterity judging him well. But over the weekend, the Electoral Commission did a recollation of some of the constituencies and also completed the coalition process for some of the constituencies as well. 9 outstanding constituencies and now 7 have been declared now, all in favor of the NPP. Some of them had already been declared for the NDC, but have been now subsequently been overturned. 2 remain outstanding: Dom Kwabenya and then Abilikuma North. Now, how crucial is it that we get some finality to this issue before Parliament is sworn in? Already, we've heard some of the NDC MPs elect who have had their winnings overturned indicate that they will still show up in Parliament.
I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's a matter of we wait and see what will be the issue when Parliament is open in January. So that I can't say much. Let's see how it's going to be.
But what are your thoughts on this whole recollation process?
The court has spoken on it, so I am guided by
Court.
the law. So let us see how the whole process will end. Now that it's in the appropriate forum, which is the courts and all that. So normally, I always reserve my comments. I want the court to do its work. Then I will also, when we are given opportunity to look at it, we also look at it.
Now let's talk about President Akufo-Addo. Now he over the weekend was at the bicentennial of the Presby Church, and he touched on a myriad of issues, especially the recent elections, congratulated the incoming president, and also talked about the post-election violence, among others, and then said that, looking at the work he has done, or the work that was done under his government, posterity will judge him well. Looks like the outgoing president has taken, a thing or two, a note from his then opponent, and now incoming president, John Dramani Mahama.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with the president assessing himself and then giving a verdict of his own performance. But that is also, we as a people have our own verdict of how he fared relative to the work that he did for the last 4 years. So yes, obviously, you don't expect the president to say that posterity will judge me wrongly. No, he will give a positive account of himself. But you and I also have our view. I believe that the president's performance is mixed, good and bad. And that is how his record will be. So I respect his opinion. And partly it is true that he did some good job, but partly too there were, ills in his government, and that can also not be shoved under the carpet.
Specifically on the issue of, he mentioned, for instance, governance, in terms of the areas where he thinks that he will be judged well, posterity. How did you think he fared when it comes to governance, especially?
Mix. The good aspect of what he did can be seen in areas of education, where in spite of the difficulties this country goes through all the time, particularly during his era, he was able to shepherd the free SHS program to the state that we find it today, to the extent that if you look at the performance of PSHS at the WASI level, it has been a very an improved performance, and we've seen children going to school at that level with all the benefits that they derive from the system. A good policy, even though we know that there are the policy needs some evaluation and overhaul in order to improve it and bring it to another level. That we can't take it away from him. This is part of the governance indicators, where development of human resource and all that. But we can also look at issue of the general, improvement in terms of infrastructure development and what have you. They were able to do some reasonable ones and all that. But come to governance indicators specifically, let me touch on the economy, which is a critical index in the governance architecture. The economy, the president failed woefully against the backdrop that there were early warning signals people gave to the president, but they all fell on deaf ears. The president did not mind all this, and we are where we are as a result of mismanagement of the economy. There is absolutely no doubt about that. We've mismanaged the economy to the extent that we have to be in IMF for $3 billion, which when we are able to plug corruption with Transparency International, local branch, GII, Ghana Integrity Initiative, tells us that every year we lose more than $3 billion through corruption, fixed corruption, and you don't go to IMF. So for me, that is an indictment on the government, that they mismanaged the economy and that they did not care a hoot about, financial prudence and fiscal discipline. If you look at the gains that they are talking about today relative to the economy, it's nothing but that the IMF is holding a cane at our back, and we have no choice than to do the bidding, and we are gradually getting the basis right. So one would have thought that on your own, without the IMF, if you were disciplined, would you go through this experience? And that is $1 million question I leave for the president to answer. Another thing relative to the economy was the issue of financial waste. If you read Auditor's General reports and other financial reports, it is replete with a tall list of financial waste within the system. The president and his government were not able to manage them, and this is also a blot on his record. Moving forward, I have touched briefly on corruption, but I want to drill down to the real issue of corruption. Corruption, the president, I will not take it away from him that he, established the office of the special prosecutor. He passed into law the what do you call the transparency, the law on I've forgotten the name.
Right to Information?
Right Information Act. Right. I will not take it away from him. He passed that. But what have you achieved in this regard? And the evidence can be found in on the website of Transparency International, which says that the records that stands today in the name of the president and his government is that they began with, I think, 40% from the inception of this government, and the highest they got to was 43% at this time. And that, for me, what is so interesting and worth talking about is the fact that there's a president who chastised John Mahama-led NDC government of being wallowing in steep corruption. But in his time, the preponderance of corruption is here with us, to the extent that the figures are there at the Transparency International, saying that if you look at the figures, the worst performance of John Mahama is the best for Nana Akufo-Addo's government. For me, that speaks volume. That all his efforts about corruption was just a talk show. It was not a workshop where we zeroed down onto what, making sure that we fight corruption head on. It was not the case. And for me, that was, if you look at human rights reports, and I'll urge everybody to read the U.S. State Department report on human rights. There have been mass improvement and all that, but there are still problems associated with some aspect of this report, particularly when you look at all the regimes in this republic have had some negatives in there. But one thing that stands throughout, virtually almost all the regimes, is issue about police and the way sometimes they go against the rules of the game, they abuse people's rights and the rest of them. One would have thought that the government will look at this index very well and help the country to deal with it. But we still have that. And I'll urge everybody to read that report where you will find bits and pieces about some of these aberrations related to police work. And that doesn't speak well for us. If you look at the freedom index, for instance, you realize that we are not making progress. We are rather retrogressing gradually and all that. So these are some of the governance indicators expect that there should have been mass improvement in this area. But the story is what it is today.
Now, one last question I would ask you. For instance, we've heard the vice president and then flag bearer of the NPP, at an engagement with party communicators, say that, listen, they did everything that they could, and in fact, from the grounds, they were confident that they were going to win. Unfortunately, in terms of their messaging, there were key traditional media houses that were against them, and they think that played that did not play in their favor going into the polls. Now, what is your assessment of that particular, assessment from the flag bearer's side when he says that, well, from the grounds, it looked they were confident they were going to win, but then again, he's aware of the work that the communicators did, but there were key media outlets that were, not on their side, and it's one of the contributory factors to their loss.
I believe it's not a genuine assessment of the situation. With respect, I must be blunt with the vice president. With the vice president and then the running mate. Right? Why am I saying that?
Vice president? No, that's the vice president, the flag bearer of the NPP. That's Mahmoud.
The vice president and then the flag bearer. Let's look at it this way. If what he's saying is true, my question to Dr. Bawumia is that: is he saying that all the big media houses that he's talking about, or the media house, they are all opposition media houses? You and I are alive to the fact that there are some of the media houses, big ones of course, who are, allies, or they are close to the government of the day. That is a fact. So if that is a fact, you ask what then changed. If they all stood up against the government, then it tells you that something was absolutely wrong with the modus operandi of the government relative to governance. Is it not the case? Because why would media houses which are close to you, which are aligned to you, or turning their guns against you? Then there's something wrong. But let's take the conversation further. If you look at the work of the media, it's nothing but what the media mirror society. They are the channels through which the public speak. So whatever they churn out, to a large extent, they are nothing but a manifestation of what the public is saying. Exactly so. So if all of them or most of them that he's talking about, gang up against them, then it tells you that they've got certain basics wrong, for which reason the media had no choice than to report on them. So it tells you. I'm saying that it's not a genuine assessment in the sense that this is not new. If you look at this government, this government, it has the tendency to always shy away from blame, but rather would jump toward praises. And Dr. Bawumia is guilty of that. Why am I saying this? We know Dr. Bawumia's strength is in the economy. He was brought in, Nana Akufo-Addo told us specifically, to help to build a solid economy for us. When we start having difficulties, we run away and then saying, always getting credit, taking credit from digitization and the rest of them. The economy which is suffering and has difficulties, we are shy away completely from that. But you see, in governance, you must be bold to accept blame when there are blames. You must also be able to accept defeat when there are problems. So you can't pick and choose in governance. No, you accept praises and you accept problems, and then you work with that. And that, for me, I'm not comfortable with my vice president, who is a flag bearer of the just recent election for the MPP. He must be very. He comes out saying that bold solutions, but I don't see he's a bold person. Because if you are bold, that's where you master the courage to accept blame where there is blame, and you accept praises. You don't only accept one and reject one. No. Because if you look at his assessment of the media landscape, then you are also saying, in effect, that what really led you to what what really scattered the NPP campaign machinery in this election, for which reason they lost the election, was it the case of only the media? Other factors also played out. The economy, which we know in the literature, is the number one factor that voters, irrespective of party tradition, party ideology, whatever, people consider that one first. So once the economy slips through your fingers, I'm afraid you will always have a problem with voters not going to vote, you out. Issue of corruption has also been a barometer by which voters assess which party should give their vote to. And particularly so, when you are in government, they want to assess you. Even if you are outside government and you have been in government before, they use that barometer to assess you. And the people assess them based on that work. Specific issues such as the unemployment has been an albatross around our neck. There is absolutely no doubt that the government also did its best to improve it. But there were more people without jobs. And those also had their day to decide that let us throw the government away and have a new one which will give us hope in terms of the jobs. That was a factor. For me, one of the critical things that I was expecting Dr. Bawumia to touch on, which he ran away from, was the issue, the fight against Galamsey. The government paid lip service to it. At a point in time, they were criticizing those who were talking about Galamsey as well. They branded them as opposition element and the rest of them. But they saw that the effects in Galamsey areas, that it contributed immensely towards their defeat. I'll give you an example about Western Region, the home and stronghold of MPP. 17 seats, they lost 15. I'm not saying that all the factors were, it was only Galamsey that threw them out there. Other factors. But Galamsey played an important role because I listened to chiefs who assembled and told John Mahama that they are fishermen and farmers, and the Galamsey activities is affecting the Pra River, especially Sama, and for which reason, because the Pra flows into the sea, they also go fishing and they don't get anything. They were complaining about that. That also is a factor. But Galamsey, the government did not want to hear issue about Galamsey. But today the reality is there. So one would have thought that if Dr. Bawumia was doing a fair analysis, he will be able to bring this thing to the fore for everybody to know that what really was the case. For me, what was even worse was that there were constituency-specific issues that they did not attend to them. And that also affected them. Remember that the votes that we vote come from nothing but the constituency. So one would have thought that the DCs, the Metropolitan Assembly, officials and all that would have taken notes, would have seen the signals right on the wall to prompt government. They also failed to do their work, and that's they fell flat on their own dagger. But let us also look at the issue that they also talk about the fact that their supporters did not go to vote.
And that has come up very forcefully from their camp, that their supporters did not go out there to vote.
Yeah, and I was also expecting them to follow that discussion to its logical conclusion and ask the question, why is it that people who voted for you and gave Nana Akufo-Addo over about 1 million vote difference this time around, saying that we are not going to vote for you and we don't care what happened? What went wrong? Did they assess that? It tells you if you were doing the things that your supporters wanted, I'm not sure they would have left you on the surface of the river like that. Because you did something to the contrary. And for which reason they do not want to vote for any other party, but that they want to abstain. And in politics or in political science, when people abstain from voting and they are your supporters, indirectly they have voted against you. That is what it means. So for me, even though the people did not go to vote, they indirectly voted against them. Let's do the mathematics of this. If you expect 20 people from a constituency or from an area to vote for you, you count on them that they will vote for you by hook or by crook. And you go only 10 have shown up. What it means is that the 10, you are going to share that 10 votes with, opposition or other parties there. Even if other parties get 1 out of the 10, you are going home with 9. If the 10 which didn't participate in the election, if they had participated and you even gain only 1 votes out of that, instead of 9, you would have gained 10 out of 20. So it tells you that when people abstain from voting and they are in your stronghold, what it tells everybody is that they have indirectly voted against you. So for me, what they are saying, they have not done the analysis of it, the mathematics of it. It is just a blame game that they are doing. But why would people who put you into office with massive votes this time around would just look at you and said, look, let's consider it for the purposes of this conversation that, you have done so well, but we will not come and vote for you. That would be incongruous. I mean, what kind of statement would that be? It tells you that your people are angry about you. They are sick and tired about you, but they don't want to give their vote to any other party except that party. But the party doesn't appeal to them. The party has, shortchanged them. The party has done something untoward, for which reason they want to punish the party. And that's why they abstain. It was a way of voting against you indirectly. So for me, it is not that their people didn't vote, but the people saw them that their performance was abysmal. They would not listen to anybody, and that it was appalling to them, for which reason they decided to punish them with an indirect vote.
My very final question would have to do to do with the expenditure in advance of appropriation. Ideally, this is something that is presented in November, but we had this back and forth about who's majority, who's minority, eventually dragged, and subsequently they had to return to Parliament after the elections. And they've taken a break. They are supposed to return on January 2nd, and we do not know whether this will be brought before the House. Prior to the adjournment, there had been assurances. The former majority leader also did assure that this presentation will be done. But before the adjournment, that had not been done. The NDC has served notice that if it is not done, what is going to happen is that the vice president elect, once sworn into office and she takes office, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, she will present that expenditure in advance of appropriation to Parliament. Now, should it happen that, government is not able to present this crucial document before the 8th Parliament expires, now what signal does it send, and does it have any implication with regard to the legacy of the president?
The pusher of the MPP, I'm uncomfortable with that. You have done your bit. The people of this country have rejected you. It is not the end of the world. You must what? Take a back seat. Look at what went wrong. Reflect and improve yourself and prepare ahead for 2028. So, what's the meaning of this? That you want to hold the incoming government to ransom? Is that what they want to do? I'm not sure that is the legacy they want to leave at the end of the day. Let us, in spite of all these things, we can also not take, shove it on the carpet that the NPP never did anything good for this country. That would be far-fetched. You played your role, but it was not enough. So continue to get your work to its logical conclusion. But if you want to hold the new government to ransom, that becomes unfair. I've heard conversation about the fact that approve, this the taxes, the tax waivers, and we also get this mini budget approved and all that. This do not sit well with any reasonable human being. Remember that in government, every government will come, government will go. So imagine you also happen to be in office and you are also giving the same type of treatment. How would you feel? So I'm not sure that is the legacy they want to leave. In any way, as the NDC have said, notice that there is always a way out. And the way out is that they are telling you that if they don't get their colleagues to play ball, they will ask the vice president, the incoming vice president, to do it. Once they are saying that, I'm sure, I've not checked, but I'm sure that they are coming from a point of information. And that once they trigger that and successful, they move through. But that will soil your last minute reputation and all that. I will advise the MPP to shy away from that path. It is not the best. They pay their dues, and that they should go home in peace and begin to reorganize themselves and move on. And that they should take this thing in their stride. Is that the end of the world? Government will come, government will go. All that you need to do is work. You can only get to office by dint of hard work. And you also listen to those who gave you the mandate. That is all. So I'm sure that it is one of the antics that at the end of the day, reason will prevail and they will be able to pass that bill into law, and then they get government machinery work. Other than that, the NDC, as it itself noticed, they will find a way out. And that is all there is to it.
Doc, thank you so much for speaking to us. We're grateful for your time.
Always pleasure. Thank you.
You had to speak to Dr. Asante. He's a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department and also the head of the Center for European Studies as well. This is still the Morning Star on Star 103.5 FM.